All right. Well, 10 years ago, National honored me, National Reso-Phonic Guitar Company, honored me by reissuing the El Trovador guitar that had its heyday, short-lived, in 1932 and 1933. And they reissued it as a Mike Dowling model, also along with the baritone guitar and a 12-string. Well, I'm here today to talk about the newest offering, and this is a cutaway version of the El Trovador, Mike Dowling signature model. And everything is the same except you can see the cutaway, and we've got one sort of oversized F-hole. And it's a little oversized to just let the guitar breathe properly and to avoid having half an F-hole down here. But it's the same neck, long scale, and 25.6 something inches. And the thing with these El Trovadors is they're a little bit narrower at the nut, 1 12/16, as opposed to most all the other national offerings, which are 1 13/16. So I've got my guitar set up with what National is offering is the Mike Dowling setup, which has a little lower action at the bridge and at the nut for people who aren't really heavy Delta players who want to play more in a fingerstyle style. Just like the guitar way back in the day, in the early 30s, this guitar is Mahogany Construction. In 1932 and 33, plywood, laminated marine plywood was the latest thing. And when National offered their mahogany guitar, they bragged about it as being 10-ply mahogany. It's really a good thing. This is not 10-ply mahogany. It's not quite that thick. But it's a very rigid top on the guitar, and that's what we are after. A top that doesn't move much, so the cone is doing all the work, and then the resonating chamber. The whole El Trovador model sort of started when I went to Luthery school in Spring Hill, Tennessee, and the teacher said, be sure to bring in a piece of junk. This was like 30 years ago. So I called my friend who I knew had some old guitars, and he sold me an El Trovador, which was in pieces, no fingerboard, and there was a big hole in the back and some other issues with it, but it needed a little bit of everything. So in the course of taking the month-long repair course, I put that guitar back together, never having heard one. And as soon as I strung it up, I said, well, this may be a guitar that I'm going to play. And so I did for years and years, and people started contacting me and saying they liked the sound of that guitar, having heard my recordings with it and seeing me play with it, and wanted to know where they could get one. And I said, well, that's going to be hard because they're all extinct now. So when National got wind of that, they thought about reissuing this guitar, so I sent them my old one for a year, and that's how the whole thing developed. And here we are in 2017 with a new offering of that guitar. I've got this guitar set up with light gauge strings. These are 12 to 52. They're a nickel string. Actually, they're Elixir electric heavies, they're called. And they give a little bit mellower sound for me. And I've got the hot plate on here, and I think in a past video for Peghead Nation I talked about that as well. So I don't have to spend too much time talking about the hot plate, but that's my setup. At home, I field a lot of emails from people asking about the sound of the El Trovador compared to other wood body resonator guitars. So that's one of the reasons I'm happy to come in here today and talk about this guitar a little bit. It's got what I think is a nice, rich, deep sound. It's got a 4-inch wide body, which is one of the peculiarities of the El Trovador. I've got this in G tuning here, so I'm just going to play a piece called A Piece of Mine called Tracks.